footwork is one of the most important things in tennis. When you watch good players play, they all have fantastic footwork, but it's something that a lot of adult tennis players struggle with. So in this video, I want to show you how to train and develop your footwork. And the way that I'm going to do that is to show you some of my own practice and what I'm working on, because I'm naturally a right-handed player, but I'm relearning to play left-handed. And when you switch hands, you have to relearn the footwork all over again. I've got to a certain point, but now I'm starting to work on more specific footwork patterns. So I want to show you one of the patterns that I'm working on and kind of how it fits together and how you can work on your footwork as well. Hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's much appreciated if you could do that as well. So I think one of the keys to developing your footwork is understanding how the learning process occurs. The mistake that most players make is they think they can watch a video, do something a couple of times, and then it'll just work in a match. And then when it doesn't work in a match and it feels really awkward and clumsy, they stop practicing it. You've got to understand that learning anything takes time and it takes repetitions. At the start, you're in the conscious phase of learning. You have to really think about what you're doing. And if it's a new footwork pattern, like I'm working on today, it's gonna feel awkward, it's gonna look awkward, and it's gonna be clunky. But that's the learning process. You have to go through that frustrating period. And as you do more and more repetitions, it becomes more of a habit. And when you've done enough repetitions, it becomes an actual habit. And then at that point, then it just happens naturally in a match. Now that is not the point that I'm at. Here I'm going to be working on the footwork patterns for the overhead. It is a particularly awkward footwork pattern. Like at no time in life do we land and then move quickly backwards while looking up in the air. It's a really unusual footwork pattern, and I haven't really worked on it yet since I've been playing left-handed, because I've been focusing on forehands and backhands and all the shots that I use more regularly. Now I've got to a certain level at those shots. Now is time for me to work on the overhead footwork. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today. This is basically the second time that I've worked on overhead footwork, and the first time I only spent a few minutes on it. So this is pretty much the start of the process for me. So you'll see how awkward and clunky it looks, but that's okay. I want to show you the process because this is what you'll need to go through. So there's a couple of different parts to the overhead footwork, and I'm going to have to break them down and kind of work on them separately. The first thing I want to practice is just a drop step and kind of opening up my body to the left. So I'm landing from the split step and just opening up my body. So I'm doing a drop step with this left leg pivoting to hopefully get side on as quickly as possible. The next thing that I'm going to add in is the crossover step. So I'm basically doing a drop step and then a crossover step. And I'm not quite sure where to have my left arm yet because I haven't done this before, but it feels awkward. But I can't worry about everything. I'm just worrying about what happens on the footwork. So doing the drop step into the crossover step. How does it work on my right hand? Okay, yeah, so that seems about right. I do have the advantage of having played for years with my right hand, so I can try it on my right, work out what I did, and then move to my left. You're going to have to do it slightly differently. You're going to have to watch videos on footwork and then go through this process. But drop step, crossover step. Drop step, crossover step. And I just build up repetitions just working on this. But that's going to be the starting point. What I then need to get to, instead of doing this drop step, because that's kind of cumbersome and slow, what I need to do is kind of a bounce step. So I land and then bounce into position. And it basically saves a few hundredths of a second or a couple of tenths of a second. This to, ooh, didn't get it, to this. The more dynamic version is the faster version. So that's the one that I want to work on. So I would just practice this, just getting the repetitions over and over again. And all I'm focusing on, just being reactive from the floor and then trying to move back and just get that. Ooh, I didn't get it right on that one. Crossover step. So now I'm going to add in a shuffle step. So I'm going to do crossover, shuffle. How far back am I getting? Okay. And notice on the one before, I didn't do a crossover on the shuffle. I did a shuffle and a shuffle. So I got the footwork wrong. But this is the process. It's new to me, so I'm not going to do it perfect every time, but then I just have to correct it and then work on it. Now, you might find that you need to record yourself, or you might find you'll be able to understand what you're doing. Okay. But this is the process. And the more times I do this, the more dynamic and comfortable it gets. I'm going to take a rest for a few seconds and then move to the next bit. So now I'm going to add in a shadow swing component. So I'm going to go back to the crossover step, and then I'm going to try and do a shadow swing. And it looks clunky again because I haven't practiced it. But I'm just trying to kind of rehearse it and get a feel. Like, this is such an unusual movement. All tennis movements weird, but overheads, moving backwards quickly, jumping up and doing that. I've done it so many times on the right side, but this is very different. So this is how the learning process occurs. You have to go through this weirdness. It's taken me a while to get used to being in the loaded position on the serve. Now I'm trying to do it going back. Now potentially, if I was having a ball here, trying to connect with it, I might be hitting them over the back fence somewhere, but I don't have to worry about that for now. All I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of muscle memory, just get used to it, and just get the repetitions. So now I'm going to add in the shuffle step and do the same thing. Ugh. Missed the shuffle. Missed the crossover. Excuse my noises, but this is what learning tennis is like. It's not as smooth as they make out on the YouTube videos, especially when an aeroplane's flying over and making noise, but it's not as smooth as it works on the YouTube videos. It's not as simple as 5 simple steps. I've been a tennis coach for half my life, and I'm still screwing this stuff up. So if you make mistakes, that's okay as well. Crossover, shuffle, and then the swing. Okay, focus. Crossover, shuffle, swing. And I'm giving myself those cues. I was focused on talking, not focused on what I'm doing. Now, crossover, shuffle. And this is the process. Now it's just a case of doing more and more repetitions until it becomes a habit. And it's probably going to be a few thousand repetitions. It won't all look exactly like that. As I get more used to it, I'll add in different variations, moving in different directions, maybe adding in a few more adjustment steps. Now that might sound like a lot of reps, and that's because it is, but this is the way that learning occurs. And this is, like I said, why most people aren't able to develop footwork. It's a case of finding ways to fit it in. So what I'm going to do, and what I recommend you do, is choose 1 or 2 patterns that you need to work on. This is what I'm focusing on for now, and just spend 5 minutes doing it as part of your warm-up before each time you play. And it just takes as long as it takes, but eventually it'll start to feel more natural. When it does, then you can move on to the next footwork pattern. Now, if this video has been helpful to you, and I hope it has, it'd be great if you give me a thumbs up, and you might also be interested in a free class that I've created that's going to teach you about the whole process that I've used to become a 4.5 player with my left hand. So it's going to talk about how to break down and analyze your strokes so that you can make sure that you're focusing on the right thing and practicing in the right way. But it's also going to teach you about how to use brain-based training to improve your visual skills and your coordination, because tennis is all about eye to hand and eye to foot coordination. In addition to the practice, the main reason I've been able to get to this level with my left hand is because I use brain-based training to improve skill. So the class is going to teach you about that. I'll place a link to it down in the description so you can go through and watch it if you're interested. Otherwise, any questions or comments about applying this process, leave them down in the comments section, and I will catch you next time.